Hi, Lynn. Welcome to continuing the conversation with Sadie. Today we're going to explore emotionally intelligent care, reflective practice, and the realities of exploring and supporting families through complex care systems. My name is Sadie. I'm a carer, personal assistant with over 22 years of experience in the social care industry and the founder of Continuing Care with Sadie. Continuing Care with Sadie is a care company I set up less than 4 years ago. It serves the elderly in Gloucester so they can stay in their own homes. Today, I'm truly blessed and honoured to be joined by someone whose leadership and compassion have shaped education across Gloucestershire and beyond, Lynn Dance. Lynn Dance has worked in education for over 35 years and has even received an OBE in 2020 for services to education while she was the head teacher of the Milestone School and Chief Executive Officer of Sand Academies Trust. Also, Lynn now is co-head at heart of the Forest School. Lynn also continues to support schools as a consultant, governor and trustee, whilst juggling a very busy home life. And believe me, it is busy, isn't it, Lynn?
It really is, yeah. Four-generational household.
Definitely. But what stands out the most is Lynn's unwavering commitment to the whole family, her deep concern for those who fall through the net when the systems fail to meet their needs. In this episode, we'll explore how Lynn's experience has shaped her understanding of inclusive education, what reflective leadership looks like in practice, and how we can build systems that truly honour the dignity and complexity of every child and family. So, if we're ready, we'll start with the first question, which is all about our foundations and values. Lynn, I just wanted to ask you, first of all, can you share what first drew you into special education and what's kept you rooted in it for so many years?
What first drew me in was my mum ran a playgroup. We lived up in Southport, and I must have only been, well, it must have been around 10, 11, something like that. And mum realised that some of the children in the playgroup had special needs or siblings with special needs, and she could see how hard it was for families. So she set up a Saturday morning crash
Oh, wow.
for special needs young children so that parents could take siblings out or go and do their shopping or just go home and have a cup of tea. And I went along to help and I was completely hooked. I just loved it. I was fascinated by each child as an individual and how different they were. As a young teen, I did work experience in a special school, and that was it. I just knew that's what I was going to do. And that's what I did do.
Brilliant.
And what's kept me going is that I feel absolutely blessed that I've made a career out of something I feel is a hobby and a passion. It's never
Yeah.
felt like work. It's
Yes.
always felt like I'm totally interested and I want to find out more and I want to change things and do what I can.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. I mean, that's the dream, isn't it? You spend so many hours of your day and hours of your life working that if you've got that, you've got everything really, haven't you? It's amazing. Following on from that, and that is a really great answer. I love that. I wanted to ask you, what have families taught you over the years that formal training never could?
I think compassion. I think
Mm.
seeing how the whole family is affected. I remember that there's an expression saying a disabled child is a disabled family, and I used to think, oh, that's a terrible thing to say,
Yeah.
but it's not. And sadly, it's true. It does affect the whole family, but you can turn it round and say that a disabled child leads to a very compassionate family. And I think you don't get that with formal training. You just get to look at the child as an individual. But
Yes.
once you're working in the field, you see the whole family. And I spent my career trying to be as holistic and whole family orientated as possible for that reason.
Yeah. No, that's great. I just think that's definitely what people need as well. Um, and without that, you've got no starting ground, have you? It's brilliant. Is there a moment early in your career that still shapes how you show up today?
I was thinking about this. Yes, there are several, but I was thinking one, I'm still trying to get marketing signing and use of symbols out there into
Mm.
mainstream schools, into society. I'd love to see every child in the mainstream school learn how to do Makaton sign language because as a very young teacher, I think my first year teaching, I took a group out to do some shopping, practice social skills.
Yeah.
And this young lad went into the supermarket on his own, and I'm peering through the window, giving him his independence, but wanting to check he's safe.
Yeah.
And he couldn't get a shopping basket apart from the other shopping baskets. And he was signing help to every
Right.
adult who went past him. And every adult who went past him gave me a beaming smile and did nothing because they didn't
Didn't
understand the
understand.
sign language.
Yeah.
And that moment made me think what we're doing. And as a society, we have to understand this. It's not I haven't achieved it yet, but I still would strive for that, definitely.
Yeah. No, I, I'm almost imagining in my head that maybe like a sticker or a symbol like you have for deaf people to say this is what this means in sign language would be helpful as well. I think that's a really
It would.
interesting point. I really like that. And something that we all need to be aware of, even myself. So that's great. What does supporting the whole family mean to you in practice, Lynn, especially when navigating complex needs?
I think what it says on the tin really, that you realise the child will achieve the most they can in life if the whole family are supported to
Yes.
support that child and to support themselves. So for me, it meant seeing that siblings do have a hard time. You know, some siblings find it hard to take friends home because of the
Yes.
dysregulated behaviour of their brother or sister. Some grandparents used to say to me, "We want to help, but we don't know how to help." So I was proud at the milestone. We set up a sibling group in collaboration with the NHS and a psychologist. And we set up a grandparent support group and we had various parent support groups and parent workshops. It's lonely. You
Yeah.
our parents aren't stood at the school gate meeting each other very often. Children generally come in by taxi or minibus, and setting up a way in which they've got that network of families to
Yeah.
help them and support them. That was one of the things that was behind us building the Shanwell Centre at the Milestone School, which is now a cafe, a new hydrotherapy pool, etc. That we wanted somewhere that all people, not necessarily just disabled families, but just families in general, had a safe space to go to where it was completely disabled, accessible to everybody, and where
Yeah.
I want to say anything goes, but you know what I mean, that the parents aren't worrying about how their child is being looked at or perceived.
And I can add to that that I've had clients, obviously I can't reveal much information about them and everything, but I have used the Shamwell Centre with them, and the amount of help it's given my client in a pool that is heated to a certain temperature so they can go in and not have spasms has been phenomenal. And I'm like you, Lynn. I do this because I want to help people, and it was a centre that enabled me to help my client in ways that I just couldn't have done before. So I think what you've just said is just the foundation is compassion. It can't be taught. You've either got it or you haven't. And you know this anyway, but I just think to have somebody like yourself in your industry, they are so lucky to have you because that's what it takes. It takes that deep well of compassion and that compassion in action, like you said, and all these brilliant ideas to keep pushing forward and to make it happen. I'm just going to go on to section 2. So I think that's really good. The foundations and values are just brilliant and they're coming off you and it's really clear where we stand. So if we move on to systemic gaps and the emotional impact that has, my next question would be, you've spoken passionately about service users falling through the net. Can you share what that looks like on the ground? And if so, can you give me any sort of examples, obviously without revealing the person in question?
I think 3 areas really. There are children who don't fit into a special school because their needs are not so great they really need a special school, but equally they can't cope in mainstream schools,
Mainstream, yeah.
and they don't fit either. And it's about how we can it's not the child who has to change, it's the establishments that have to change and to make sure they don't fall between the gap and that their needs can be met in one place or the other. There's also, for me, a huge one is that transition from children's services over to adult services, and
Yes.
children, young people do fall between fall through the gap there. I have friends who've always fostered children and young people with special needs, and they have a foster daughter who she didn't go to special school, my kiddie, and she should have done. She went to mainstream, and then when she transferred into adult services, because she hadn't been to special, hadn't
Yeah.
got all those
Had got
services in place,
the tools in
yeah,
place.
she hadn't got the tools, and she was just expected to cope in society without even the framework of the school to support her. And it's failed chronically, and it shouldn't have done. And also another area that where it fails is sharing of information. When
Yeah.
information isn't shared between services. So we've got at the school at the moment, we've got a young lady who is so very, very difficult for us to meet need. We haven't had any information about her. We know she's had a lot of adverse childhood experiences, but we can't find out what they are. No one's shared that information with us. So we don't know if the approach we're using is
Yeah.
actually triggering her trauma responses. So it's that frustration about those kind of things that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah. So continuity of care relies very heavily on clear communication and a really good, solid, clear handover, which means that that continuity can continue. So yeah, I could
Absolutely.
see how really that's really important. And with the level of technology we've got now at at our hands, it shouldn't be a problem in this day and age. It should be very quick and easy. So good point. How do you support families when the system feels like it's failing them?
I think that goes back to listening, being compassionate. Then I'm still in touch with families whose children left school several years ago, and I will offer to go to meetings with them.
Yeah.
I'll do letters of support with them. It's the only time I pull out my OBE
Yeah.
to put at the end of
You
support
do what
letters, thinking,
yes, you do what
yeah,
you've got to
thinking that
do in the
might
social
make
system.
people sit up.
The
Yeah.
louder you are.
Um,
Yeah.
and signposting people if the systems who are meant to be supporting the family aren't working, then let's look to the voluntary sector and help families find the right kind of charities and grant givers who might be able to help them.
Yeah. Excellent. No, that's good to know. And I imagine it's something that relies quite heavily on the volunteer community, which is another whole story in itself, I imagine. What does emotional containment look like when families are in crisis to you, Lynn?
Similar, I think. It's about that support and compassion and being at the end of the phone. And a lot of it is letting people rant, for want of a better word. When parents are very stressed and their emotions are running away with them, they need an outlet for that. And I've always talked to stuff about these people are not angry at you. They're angry at the world and how the world has failed their child. They're just expressing it at you, but don't take it personally. Just see it as they need to offload and listen and support and accept that people have frustration.
See, the one thing I know about you, Lynn, is you are a fantastic listener, and
Thank you.
I think that just makes people feel very secure in your space. And I think
I
that's
hope so.
credit to you. No, 100%. I know you, so I know that I'm saying it as a truth. And I see your family around you. And you are a pillar of strength to so many people. You're not just saying it, you do it. So I think
Thank
that's
you.
fantastic because it's such a it's such an important thing to be able to listen to people. It just calms them down and just makes them
Mm.
make more rational decisions. Otherwise, you're in the moment and it could go right or left quite quickly, couldn't it? With whatever is put in front of them when it comes to making decisions. So I think that's amazing. I really, really like that. Um, what emotional toll does this take on educators and leaders, and how do you stay resilient yourself?
I think the emotional toll can be sometimes you hear too much sad. You are compassionate. You are a giver and a carer to work in education with special needs or to work as you do as a carer, and you need an outlet for that.
Yeah, 100%.
I, I know the times I've been to too many children's funerals, and that's terrible. and your grief is not for you. You're sad that one of your pupils has died, but your grief is for the family. And you leave feeling absolutely drained, but you have to find an outlet for that. And how you stay resilient is that saying you have to have that outlet and you have to find something that works for you. I remember when I was being interviewed for headship, one of the questions was, how do you cope with stress? And I did this rambling answer about coming home and playing Barbies with my daughter.
Yeah,
It was the right age then, not now, obviously. Um, the point I was making is that you have to do something completely different
just to switch off.
to switch
Yeah,
off. And for me
yeah,
now, it tends to be yoga is my
yoga.
go-to.
It's an important question, especially today when we are so much more knowledgeable about mental health and looking after ourselves. But I think for someone like myself, and especially you, Lynn, where you work in very emotionally charged situations, if you don't have boundaries and you don't switch off, you just wouldn't be able to continue. It would be unsustainable to withhold that level of empathy and take on board everyone's emotions. So I think it's really important to know what you do to switch off, because somebody listening could actually be in that state at the moment where they're so drained that they just need some ideas or inspiration about what they can do just to switch off so they're ready, refreshed for work the following day. So, I mean, things like yoga, what else do you recommend? Walking, anything like that?
Walking, black humor. I find in on my school senior leadership team,
Yeah,
we sometimes had to just find something to laugh at,
yeah,
and
make it light.
yeah, make it light. It doesn't mean you've lost your compassion
Yeah,
on it or that you won't go back to it in a serious manner. You just have to find a way to diffuse the tension.
absolutely. I also find, I don't know if you do, but sometimes I come home and I'll put on the most awful television that I just love to watch because it's just easy watching. It just takes me away from reality. So that's the other thing I found. And I love reading as well. So I find a good non-fictional book is quite interesting as well, as long as it's not too work related. That's pretty nice. But yeah, no, it's very important. I'm glad you do it, and I know you're very good at your yoga.
I do love it.
The next section will be reflective leadership and advocacy. So I'm going to ask you about, what do you think reflective leadership looks like in a special school setting to you?
I think it's questioning everything, but not all at the same time. So I think we always have to say to ourselves, right, why are we doing this in this way? And if the answer is simply because we always have, you've got to look at it again with, well, what's the impact of doing it that way? What other ways could we consider and would they have a greater impact? So it's questioning everything and making sure you're not just doing the thing right, but that you're doing the right thing, because so often you get caught up in what do we have to do for Ofsted, what do we
Yeah,
have to do for
yeah,
whatever it is, and you forget that you're doing this with the children in the centre of it all and what's right for them. So it's that reflection,
yeah.
and
I like that.
admit that mistakes are part of the job.
Yeah,
I've always tried to say to staff, try new things. If they don't work, fine. At least we've tried. We know
yeah.
it doesn't work. I don't want staff to feel afraid to try new things and to think that in case they fail, they might not, and it might be life changing for the child.
And you don't want it to be ritualistic either, do you? Where they're just doing it and they don't know why they're doing it. And like you said, it's not best fit for the child or the situation. So yeah, I think that's really important, because you can get into a rut as well, can't you? How do you balance accountability with compassion when leading teams through challenge or change?
I think the first one I learned the hard way is that not everybody likes change. I do. I love it. I'm like, woohoo, let's change. And I think it's about pacing it right so that you've got to get everybody understanding the need for the change
Yeah,
and realize that not everyone will want to go at the pace that you want to. And I've learned to start small. So we
yeah,
might say, right, try it in that class and then wait for other classes to start to go, oh, that looks interesting. Can we try
yeah.
that? Rather than
Building
just say,
blocks.
everybody's got to do this.
Yeah.
So it is those, yeah, start small. And again, humor, encourage breaks, and acknowledge that the people are finding it hard.
When I thought about this question, I was thinking about the Milestone School because I know you mentioned earlier you had the Shamwell Centre, which had the hydrotherapy pool put in, and I was thinking that must have been a really big change for your students. So, how did you
Well, we
prepare
did
them?
have one.
Yeah,
Yeah, we needed a new one.
yeah. I just wondered how you prepared the students for did it impact their learning or were they okay when that was put in place? Because obviously there was a lot of building work going on. To me, it's about thinking ahead and letting them know what's going on and adapting
Yeah,
little things along the way to help them get used to change. That's how I sort of imagined it as well. So I thought I'd ask you about that. Were they all fairly okay?
they were, because it was well managed. It
Yeah,
was, um, children were kept well away from it. But when it was ready, children would visit it before they even went in the pool, just to get used to the area and see what it was and see how different it would be in the changing room to what they were used to. And I think we're good at doing that.
yeah. No, that I was just thinking of that when I asked that question because I thought there's lots of emotional, but there's also practical aspects to it, isn't there, when it comes to what you do? Can you share a moment where reflection helped shift something important for a child, family, or a teen?
Yes, I think over my many years in education, there's been times when parents or carers have seemed incredibly difficult, and get stuff done, and staff feel that they can't do anything with right, and that the parents are always on the phone being cross and angry. And
Yeah,
it's that realizing that those parents are driven by total desire to get things right for their children, but also sometimes it's driven by fear, it's
yeah,
driven by sorrow, it's driven by frustration that they have to fight for everything for their child.
yeah,
And I think it is that reflection helps you realize that, as I mentioned this earlier, those parents aren't angry at you as a person.
yeah,
They're angry at a system, or they're angry at how their life has turned out, or how hard their life is, or that they can't get what they need for their child. And I think that helps shift something in your own head and staff head about being more compassionate in
yeah,
dealing with those parents and acknowledging that with parents.
yeah. So, as well as everything you've just said, it's also about, I guess, reflection is teaching you that life isn't perfect, systems aren't perfect, people aren't perfect, and you have to sort of make the best of
Make the
what you've
best you
got.
can. Mm.
No, that,
It happens every single year in any school I've ever been in. The staff say there aren't enough staff. We need more staff in classrooms. And at some point, you have to say, that would be wonderful, but there's no budget.
yeah,
It's that simple. We have to work within a
yeah,
budget, whether we like it or not, and make the
yeah,
best of it.
yes, yes. No, that's a really good point. Going on to vision and hope, my last section, I just wanted to ask some questions. The first one would be I wanted to know what changes you would love to see in how education and care systems work together. Now, for me, this is a really important one because I see a gap between a lot of care sectors now and it's getting wider. So I'd love your opinion on it and what you think we can do about it.
It is that team around the individual. It's making sure that everybody from any agency, voluntary or statutory, are, are in communication and sharing information about the person. But it's also a really good example for me is schools have got amazing facilities,
Yes.
and they're stood empty every day from 3:30 until the next morning,
Right.
very often through the holidays. And I'd love to work more with social care so that respite is run by social care, but using the special school buildings. Not necessarily our staff because they're tired after a day at work, but quite a few staff do respite, but with individual
Yeah.
children, it's great in the summer, but in the winter, it's cold in the park. So it's making the most of the facilities.
And like I said, I have used your facilities for clients of mine and
Mm,
it's a brilliant idea. I mean, they pay next to nothing for a yearly membership and we can use it whenever we want as long as we book in. I think it's again going back to what we said previously about using what's on your doorstep, making the best of what you have, because sometimes people don't look at what's right in front of them, do they? And
no, they
reflection
don't.
can make you see that. If you could redesign one part of the system tomorrow, what would you start with? Bearing in mind, I did love that last point. That was brilliant.
Yeah. I think at the moment the government are really looking special education,
Mm.
and I think the EHCPs, which are legal documents meant to be education, health, and care working together on what the child needs, they haven't worked. It tends to be education a bit of social care, a bit of health, all working in silos, bringing that together again, making it work. But also in terms of running the school, oh, we look at the Ofsted framework. It's it, it's no less stressful than it's ever been. The new framework coming out now is more stressful, and
Right.
it is about everyone's got to be held to account.
Yeah.
Children deserve the best, but inspecting schools with compassion rather than a checklist. To me, I'd love to change that system.
No, that makes sense. And what gives you hope right now, and what keeps you going when things feel really stuck?
The children, it's always the children, because
Yeah.
they're each child is absolutely fascinating individual, and
Yeah.
it's the detective work that goes into getting to know that child, getting to know what makes them tick, working out what will motivate them or what will engage them with learning. That
Yeah.
and the staff, the brilliance of the staff, the ones who always want to learn, always want to do the best for the children,
Mhm.
always turn up every day even when they're feeling grotty. That's a really strong, powerful motivator for everyone to keep going.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, going back to what I said earlier, they're lucky to have you. You are so genuine, you are so real, and anybody who is in your team must pick up on that and just follow with just such authenticity that the kids are in good hands. I just know that. But for you to lead the way as well is fantastic. So thank you for sharing so much with us today. Your insight, your heart, and your years of experience will help myself and my listeners in many ways. What is clear, though, is that your leadership is not just strategy, but in deep emotional intelligence and a fierce commitment to families who do deserve better. You've reminded us all that inclusive education isn't just about access, it's about dignity, trust, and showing up for the whole person. And when systems fall short, it's fierce, passionate leaders like yourself that advocate change, hold the line, reflect deeply, and keep pushing forward. To all of our listeners here at Continuing Care with Sadie, if today's conversation resonated with you, I invite you to reflect on the families you support, the gaps you witness, and the small ways we can all advocate for something better. Because care and education are not separate, they're intertwined in every moment of trust, challenge, and growth. Until next time, take care of yourself, each other, and remember reflection is not a luxury, it's a lifeline. Thank you very, very much, Lynn.
Thank you. It was really interesting.